Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be. It's great to have you here, whether you're on the live stream or going to be looking at it a bit later. We appreciate you being here, and we look forward to finding out a little bit about this Australian couple. It's the first couple we've had on our live streams, and we need to find out a few things about these guys, and most importantly, are they happy? Well, we'll find out shortly. So these guys live in Australia. Yes, that's way down under. It's actually the third island of New Zealand, whether they know it or not. But there's so many Kiwis or New Zealanders living in that country. And it's a real privilege to be able to have our visitors and our guests from the third island of New Zealand. Let's bring them on.
I'm going to quibble about that.
There's fighting words, Jane.
I know you will. I know you will. But at least in cricket, we don't do underarm.
Oh, come on! God, what is it? We're not even 30 seconds in, and he's bringing up the fucking cricket.
No, just he's living 30 years in the past.
Jeez.
But I suppose if you're coming from New Zealand, you really are 30 years in the past. So give him a chance. It's all good.
Yeah, you know, at least we're not in a former prison colony.
Yeah, you got to say, mate. Yeah. Hey, for the purpose of all of our people watching, we're going to need some serious subtitles because we've got a Kiwi, we've got two Aussies. Anybody in other parts of the world is not going to understand a word that we're saying. So, yeah, should we speak slowly? Maybe is that going to help people?
I don't know. We'll find out. So, I guess if anybody does have trouble with some of the phrases we might be using. Put it in the comments. Put it in the comments, and we'll get some Australians to answer it for us. So, well, it's nice to have you guys here, and
thank you, mate.
I've been looking forward to catching up with you. I know we've talked on Facebook numerous times, and you know, it's been great to see what you guys are doing. But before we get on to some of the things that you guys have been doing, in way of introduction, tell us. How did you get into J-Dubs?
Oh, God. How long do we have? No.
No. It's actually a very simple answer. We were both raised in it. Our parents were witnesses, so...
No choice.
No.
Like so many of us that are here, that are watching or a part of the group. Yeah, we were born into it. But, you know, isn't it amazing? We were born into the one true religion. So
fancy that.
What a privilege that our parents just had to, you know, had the opportunity to bring us up in the one true faith.
Yeah. Yep, that is true. You have to smile at that, don't you? So, you're obviously out.
Yes.
How long? Give us a little bit of history about some of the things that obviously you're dragged up in this organisation, and you're no longer in there. So, tell us some of the things and what you've done as part of the J-Dubs when you were in it.
Yeah, thanks, mate. No, I appreciate it. Hey, first of all, thanks for having us because, you know, we absolutely, we love the focus of everything that you're about and the group, you know, because we are, as Sherry will say too, like we absolutely focus upon thriving post-religion. And, you know, it's not so much about dwelling in the negativity of what we came from. It's all about reclaiming our lives and bouncing forward. And so we're able to talk about our past without it bringing up too much in the way of triggers or negativity. You know, as much as we can complain about certain aspects of it, we are who we are because of our background in the religion. So, yeah, we're quite happy to just sort of say, yep, that was a part of our life. That was a huge part of our life, but here we are coming out of it. But I don't know, what about our background?
I suppose, where do you start? We both got baptised in our teenage years. I'll leave you to speak about you. But for me, I was just a really serious child and was the only witness in school for both primary and high school, and just took that responsibility very seriously. I mean, huh? I'm not even going to. What I just said is so problematic. But anyway, that's what it was like. I got baptized at 14. At 16, I started regular pioneering. I left school in year 10, as you do, and started pioneering up until 26. So it was 1991 to 2001.
You just gave your age away there.
Oh, yeah, I did too. Oh, well, whatever.
It's all good.
When I was 19, I left home and went to serve where there was a greater need.
Oh, you were one of those need graders. See? Super spiritual, this one. That's why I married her.
Oh, come on. Yeah, it was actually just a few months before I left home and moved to Scarborough that we met in January 94.
This is all over in Perth, Western Australia.
Yeah, and I think because we were both very spiritually focused.
I think that's a lot of the reason why we even got together, isn't it?
Yeah, because you were pioneering at the time as well, and we, did what couples did. How do you get to know each other? You go witnessing with one another.
Witnessing and quick builds, yeah.
Yep. Witnessing and quick builds.
I mean, we were totally, focused on all of that JW-centric activities, like so many would understand and relate to that, whether it was congregation activities, it was witnessing, it was pioneering, it was convention activities, it was quick build related activities, all of that. And then, we're in our sort of late teen years, and that's where, of course, you start to look for a potential marriage mate in the religion, and you can only really look at those who are pursuing the same spiritual goals, which, when we look back now, is such a terribly judgmental way of looking at people. It's in terms of their activities rather than who they are as people. But be that as it may, hey, I'm glad we found each other. But
we didn't get together then.
No, that's true.
So that was 94, and then I think it was in September of 94 or August. Sasha put in his application to go to Bethel for construction work, thinking it would just be a 3-month stint. And it was at was it Rockingham Quick Build?
It was one of the quick builds, yeah.
One of the quick builds in front of everyone. He shows me the letter he got back from Bethel, which was basically, thanks for your application for 3 months. We'd actually rather you for the Bethel family. Here's an application for the Bethel family. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're not gone for 3 months. You're gone for at least a year and then some.
It's funny, though. I didn't really understand that. I still thought I was just going temporarily. It wasn't kind of until I rolled up to Bethel in 1994 that I realised, oh, no, this is like permanent part of the Bethel family. And that was a time where, for anyone who's aware of the growth of Jehovah's Witnesses, particularly in Australia and New Zealand during that time, that was when they would just build. All of the branch facilities were being expanded, and so we had a huge Bethel family. I think it was about 500 at the time. Okay, so I had an assignment to work in cleaning, but also assisting the housekeeping with all of their roles, taking care of the housekeeping sisters, and I enjoyed that. Absolutely loved that work. I was there for 5 years. So we lost contact for quite a while during that time, and we established contact years after that. But I spent 5 years in Bethel, just trying to be the perfect JW Bethelite.
Did you
I believed it. Well, look, I like to think so, Shane. To be honest, I took it seriously. I took my assignment seriously. I viewed it as a privileged position or a privileged opportunity to serve Jehovah and to serve the brothers and sisters. I resisted feeling like I was better than other Jehovah's Witnesses, although I know a lot in Bethel often felt that they'd reached the pinnacle. I didn't feel comfortable with that thinking, although we were often told when we were in Bethel, particularly as young brothers, you are the example and you're the cream of the crop and all those sorts of things, which is not a very healthy view for 19, 20, 21-year-olds to get taught. But I resisted that. Look, I loved being part of the Bethel family. I made what I felt were really good friends at the time. I loved my congregation I was assigned to, and I'd really tried to throw myself into that congregation and become part of the little town and the community. So, yeah, you know, I took it seriously. I had no reason to not take it seriously, put it that way. You know, for most of us, we had not come to that point where we had to question our belief. It was still the truth. You could relate to that, mate.
Absolutely.
Just before so in 97, I moved back over to Sydney because I was originally born in Sydney anyway and still considered Sydney home. So I moved back over here in 97. We eventually get in contact again. And then we got engaged in 99. And we were actually looking at, do we go into Bethel as a couple or not?
Because we couldn't. We
did have the opportunity of going into Bethel straight away, straight after our marriage. But I am really glad we decided not to, because who knows what life would have taken, what direction. But you know, marriage is not. It's not easy when you.
It's not easy being married to me.
No, you know, sweetheart. Actually, sometimes not.
Can we edit that bit out? Oh, damn, it's a live stream.
No, we're going to keep that for posterity. We're going to keep that. We'll broadcast it around. No.
No. So the first 12 months it was hard, because I think we were both trying to put each other into the roles that you're told you're supposed to play. And we were still pioneering too. We were trying to we're trying to pull off the impossible of, I was working 3 days a week, such as window cleaning, of course. Yeah.
How strange is that?
Pioneer.
Yeah. You know, trying to regular pioneer at the same time, and to learn to be, you know, a housewife and a husband. And it was tough. It was, I would hate to have been doing that in the close confines of Bethel.
Yeah, and I'd seen some couples who did get married and go straight into Bethel when I was in there, and I saw that it was tough. It was tough for them because they didn't really know themselves, let alone know each other, let alone know how to set up a family life, so to speak, because you weren't really on your own. You were with all these other people, and it was hard. And you were always on display because people saw you all day, every day. So it's not as if you can't have an argument in Bethel, for instance, as a young couple settling in.
You can't?
Nothing like that. No, apparently not.
Well, they all know.
So, yeah, I thought it would be better to start out. But, you know, that brought a lot of challenges for us, because we didn't have 20 cents to scrape together.
No.
And, you know,
as you can imagine.
Yeah, we made our way. We got a little flat, and we stayed in the congregation that I was assigned to whilst I was in Bethel, so we had some stability, and then we pioneered there. But that was tough. You know, there wasn't always a lot of support, and we'd have to do those long days out in the field. And, you know, there were times where just the pressure of it, you know, just really got, like the Friday at the end of a busy week. You know, Sherry was struggling.
I was exhausted.
It was hard.
I was just so exhausted. I can remember those Friday mornings. I was so tired that before we even left to go to the field service group, I'd be sitting on the end of the bed crying, because I was just absolutely burnt out. And I remember like feeling bad that I felt like this, because aren't I supposed to be the happiest ever now? I'm serving Jehovah full time. I'm now married to a wonderful man who's a ministerial servant and a pioneer, and you know, this is supposed to be the best time of our lives. And I was terrible. It was just, the pressure was enormous. It was really hard, and you know, we struggled trying to just get our bills paid, and just the constant pressure of, oh, we've got to get out to this field service group. And then Sasha started doing public talks and was assigned to other congregations to deliver talks. And I had responsibilities as well. It was just unrelenting pressure.
Yep.
It was hard.
Okay, so those were some of the things you've done.
Yeah.
You're obviously out. What helped you guys wake up?
Yeah, sorry for the long laboured introduction. I guess, you know, like so many of us, it's not one thing. It's several things along the way. And for us, we continued to do everything perfectly according to, the Jehovah's Witness life. We believed it. We tried to do everything correctly. We never missed meetings as much as possible. We were always out in field service. We tried our preparation and all that sort of stuff. But if we fast forward through, I guess like many of us, we saw things that we can now look back at in hindsight and say that it's disturbing, perhaps evidence that there isn't such thing as divine direction on the congregation, and that the congregation is just made up of humans, and that the organization is indeed fallible and not directed by Holy Spirit. So we saw things like that, but we put it all off, and we often blamed ourselves if we made, if we observed things like that, if we had conversations. Very rarely would we let ourselves speak negatively to each other about the congregation or things that we saw in the congregation. We'd often pull ourselves up before we got to that chat. But if we did say something, we would always say, oh, but maybe we've looked at it wrong, or maybe we misunderstood that situation, or that brother, or the way that case was handled, or the way that family's being treated, or the way that elder is conducting himself. We'd always say, maybe we've seen it wrong, because obviously this is still Jehovah's organization. So we never let ourselves doubt like that. We never dwelt on negative things whilst in the organisation.
But I think so you see things happen in your own congregation and think, that's not quite right. And there were a few things happening within our congregation that were just terrible. But I think the first time we actually dared to criticise the organisation as a whole, it must have been 2009, 2010 when the songbook came out, the first songbook from the brown one, and there'd been so many changes to the songs, and particularly to the wording. It felt like they were simplifying it, or Sasha was actually going, they're dumbing it down.
Do you remember, Shane, that we were encouraged to try and learn those new songs off by heart?
No.
No?
I don't remember. I was out. They still had the songbook, the brown one then. So it wasn't until, what would have been 6-7 years later that I realised they had a new songbook.
I see. Right. Well,
they did try to get us to remember, learn the other ones. So, yeah.
Yeah, and when this new one came out, they tried to get us to incorporate it into our family study evening and learn the songs. So we'd awkwardly try and sing the songs together, or we'd go through them. And a couple of times we'd just look at each other and say, why did they change that? The other one was more eloquent or expressed scriptural thoughts better. And I felt like they were just dumbing down the music and dumbing down the thoughts. Or
that it was overtly emotionally manipulative.
Yes.
There was one song, is it He Will Call?
Something
that
like
was just so emotive. Like, I could never sing it without crying, because it was just really pulled at the heartstrings. It was about death and the resurrection hope, and it was just the way the chords, the melody was just extremely provocative. And I didn't like that. Didn't sit well with me. I just thought you're being deliberately manipulative here, and you're prompting those emotions out of people, and that I was unsettled by that.
Yep.
So we kind of let ourselves just notice those changes, and then notice the changes in a lot of the material and books and publications, and the thrust of the ministry and the way that the ministry was taking place. We felt like we had gone away from the deep dive, studious aspects of biblical knowledge and research to the light and fluffy, what makes you feel good, emotional reasons for being in the religion. And that's always sat a little uncomfortably with us. But, we justified it, we rationalized it, we understood that the work was expanding, and, Jehovah appeals to those who are uneducated and simple in this world, and all that sort of stuff we justified.
Until things started more things happened. So I do vividly remember when Sasha was given a service meeting part on appreciating your spiritual heritage, and it was about reading the old books. The old Charles Taze Russell, and the Rainbow books, and do you appreciate spiritual heritage? So Sasha took this talk quite seriously, and he went to go look at said spiritual heritage and realised it's batshit crazy.
Well, yeah, and again, I realised I'd dumbed a lot of, or I'd squashed a lot of that, because even when I was in Bethel, there was an extensive library with all of the early material, and we'd see the early Watchtower magazines with the picture of the cross and crown, and the really outlandishly weird teachings from the early Golden Age magazines, and we just said, well, that's, of course, the light gets brighter. But when I had this service meeting part, and encouraging us to appreciate this rich spiritual heritage, both of our families and the congregations and the organisation as a whole, and to look at the old material, I read all the old stuff, or a lot of the old stuff, and yeah, when you look at books like The Finished Mystery and all of those things, they're really crazy.
So that's one thing.
Yes.
Then what really sat awkwardly with me was then it must have been only a few months later that a letter was sent to each of the congregations to get rid of this literature. And I remember Sasha coming home and saying, remember how I did that talk on spiritual heritage? Now we have to get rid of all these books. And that just, like, hang on a minute. Huh?
Yeah.
Like, what are you trying? There's one thing in embracing your heritage and realizing, okay, that's crazy, but we have a clearer understanding now. Okay, fine. But to get rid of the books, that smacked of deliberately hiding what was in the past. And yeah, that was another chink of that's not quite.
Well, you remember what I did with them.
Yes, well, yes, I do remember.
Shane, we had a working day at the Kingdom Hall, and on that day it coincided with when that letter came out, and they said box up all the old books, and the presiding overseer or coordinator at the time pointed to which ones needed to be boxed up, and they were all to be thrown on the big rubbish pile that was being taken to the local garbage tip. And again, I'm looking at these old books and I'm thinking, but I was just encouraging people not that long ago to appreciate the heritage. So I kind of packed the box up and slid it underneath the Kingdom Hall and hid it under the hall. And then each week would take a couple of the books home. I didn't feel comfortable like stealing them and taking them permanently. I'd borrow them and then take them back to the box, and I'd read through some more of them. And that just cemented it for me. For me, that was just straw upon straw on the camel's back to say, this is a really weird religion. And I remember thinking, if I was taught this stuff, or if somebody came to my door and I wasn't already born into this religion, I'd look at them a bit and, raise my eyebrow and say, that's a bit weird. Do you really believe that? Yeah. So that was a big thing for us.
Yeah, but speed it along a bit, because this is, we're going to labour on too much. 2013, when the silver Bible came out, the silver sword, I was still very much believing and thought, oh, this is a wonderful provision. How amazing, blah, 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 blah. Sasha was just having a totally different experience to me. I realise now he had already woken up by this point. At some stage, must have been that year that you started to go onto the forums.
Yeah. So 2012, 2013, I allowed myself to research outside of the material. So you know what it's like, and so many people watching will understand this. You resist the urge to research outside. Yep. And for me, I genuinely was searching for material that was to do with the service meeting and the weekly meetings. Yep. And I would find these links through to these other sites where they would have material uploaded before jw.org existed and all of the material was accessible. And that made preparation easier and so on. But of course, you'd also tempted to go into the apostate forums. Now, I was very careful not to look on there. But by then, I think enough of my armor had broken down, my spiritual armor, and I'd allowed myself to analyze and research things. And so, yeah, for us, that was a big thing. I started to see the change of the organization, the move toward televangelism and broadcasting and all that. And it just sat really uncomfortably with us. Yep. But I had to be so careful, because I couldn't come out, and some might know our story already, but I couldn't come out directly and say to Sherry, oh, this is crazy, because I could have risked causing her to double down. You know, that recoil effect, and where you can actually cause someone to double down in their beliefs. So if I'd come out and said, read this is garbage, I don't know what the effect would have been.
He was a bit more crafty than that. He was. Well, I think he knew me enough to know that he'd have to be careful. So what he ended up doing was he'd take an article and compare it, like when it had changed in time. So there, I think, was it the 89 or 99 Watchtower? I can't remember which one it was now. No, I think it was 89 that had said that we're in the last days and it would happen before the end of this century. And then the revised article of exactly the same article changed the paragraph to say that it would be sometime very soon.
Yeah, so the printed Watchtower and then the Watchtower that appeared in the bound volume.
Yes.
They changed the terminology, that basically saying the end of the system would come before the end of the 20th century.
Yeah.
Yep, I remember that.
You remember that? Yeah, so 1999 at best, maybe December 31st. But then the bound volume said it would happen in our day.
In our day, right.
Which is very ambiguous. And,
yeah. And so Sasha brought those two to me and just said, why would they change that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at it and I can't dispute it because here's the evidence in front of me. And I'm like, I don't know why they changed that. And then Sasha would just go, okay, what are we doing for dinner? And he'd change the subject. Meanwhile, I'm still going, grappling with whatever it is that he'd just shown me. So he didn't make it a big issue. He didn't, do a big dump on me of all of these things he found. He just sort of would drop a little comment. And then I think he let himself, just being himself, be the thing that assisted me most. And what I mean by that is that he created an environment at home that was peaceful and calm and that was non-judgmental and unconditional for me. So I was working full-time by this stage. We didn't have a family. I didn't, because of that, and I wasn't pioneering, I really didn't feel like I fit into the congregation in the same way anymore. And so I did throw myself into my career and I was enjoying what I was doing work-wise. And Sasha supported that big time. So meeting attendance started to drop for me as a result, and Sasha made that okay. So if I was trying to get home for a meeting, I don't think I'm going to make it tonight, instead of berating me, Sasha would be, that's fine. That's okay. You do what you can do. I'll see you when I get home. And then he'd tell me that at the meeting, of course, he'd get all these where's Sherry? Is she not well?
No, they'd say, how's Sherry? Which means, where is she? And I'd just say, she's good, thanks. And they'd be, she wasn't able to make it tonight? No, but how are you? How's your family? I'd just deflect. But I'll be honest, at that stage, I was glad that Sherry was so busy with work and she was doing an online university course,
that no one knew
which
about.
I got in trouble for by the elders when they did find out. So I was happy that she was expanding her mind, her critical thinking skills, her knowledge, her experience in things, and that the natural consequence was she wouldn't attend as many meetings. Now, I kept going, ironically, not believing any of it at that stage. I kept going and fulfilling all my assignments and taking care of the sound box and doing parts on the platform as necessary, not really believing it. In fact, I kept being given more and more privileges from Jehovah whilst totally not believing that there was a God directing the organization, asked to assist with dramas and right. More public talk, assisting with dramas on the convention. I found that a little bit laughable, to be honest. They'd say, you're clearly Jehovah's, it's a blessing, it's an assignment for you. Yeah. So I guess for us, that's sort of the way it went. Then we just casually sort of stopped attending a little bit more. But at that stage, we'd never actually had the conversation with each other about, is this the truth?
No.
Because if I had raised that with Sherry, she probably still would have said, yes, it's the truth. She's just not doing as much in the truth as she should. So I never actually raised that topic.
No, you didn't.
So you obviously have.
Well, since then, yes, at some point.
Yeah.
So
were you both over in Western Australia?
No.
And then
Sydney.
No, you weren't?
Sydney by then.
Oh, you're Sydney. Okay, so do you have any family? I know the story behind it, but a lot of the group don't. Did you ever get disfellowshipped?
Yes.
Well, there's a funny story to that. We'll try and make it pretty quick. So fast forward right through. Apparently, we are disfellowshipped now.
We didn't know, though.
But we have never actually been told this by any congregation representative, no elder. It's elders that live within 1 kilometre of our home. The Kingdom Hall is about 1.5 kilometres from our home, if that. We've never been contacted. We've never had a discussion with anybody. We've never received a letter, a phone call, a text message, anything. But we received confirmation via a third person from another state in Australia confirming that we were announced as not being witnesses, which, you know, we don't really care.
We would never have known that this had happened. And so fast forward, we'd woken up. 2018, we start doing things.
You probably do need to go back and just explain the straw that broke your back when you read that report.
Oh, it was the Australian Royal Commission for me.
Okay,
Let's not gloss over that. That is a pivotal thing that so many
that
of
was
us
massive.
have been
That really was a big thing. Reading that for me, I literally deconverted in that moment, reading the report, because that was really traumatic for me.
So we'd never had the conversation about, is this the truth or not? I said to Sherry after the Royal Commission report was issued, look, do you want to read this? It's a government report. Have a read of it. She comes home that night having read every single page thoroughly and says, I think we need to disassociate.
Actually, I was so pissed off. I was really pissed off. So the first thing I said was, it's not the truth. And then next was, I want to disassociate, because I was so horrified at what I read in that report. I wanted to remove myself and distance myself from that, because it was just so corrupt and so disgusting. So that really was the waking up for me. And then I did the deep dive into JW Facts and JW Survey and, you know, all the rest of it.
Jehovah'sWitness.com forums, all of those.
Did all of that. And so fast forward past that to 2018, we start to do interviews on YouTube. I start to get my story out there by doing various podcasts and all sorts of things. We then organise 2 years ago. 2 years ago now, actually. Yeah. We organised a big event here in Sydney. We had 134 ex-Jehovah's Witnesses come here for an event where we had Lloyd Evans and his family. We had Mark O'Donnell. We had Javier Ortiz for the Truth About the Truth documentary, and the LA crew. Cliff the Fifth.
So many.
We just and
Renee.
And I still pinch myself that this happened. We had Angus Stewart come.
You did?
I still can't believe that we met him and was actually still in contact with him. We thought that would get us disfellowshipped. We were pretty sure that pulling off an event like that would do it.
You would think so?
Yeah, but no.
You know, it was such an amazing opportunity that we had. You know, it was a beautiful location on Sydney Harbour, and we wanted to make that event happen. Not so much to, you know, promote individual people or anything, but just to say we can have a community outside with all of our various differences, having left the religion. We don't have to be clones of one another anymore, but that we can be better, not bitter. And we kind of made that our theme for the day, is to be better, not bitter. Sure, acknowledge the garbage we've been through, but come out the other side and be better examples. And some beautiful speeches on the day. Cliff gave a wonderful speech about reclaiming life and, you know, just really embracing things. We also made the event very much heavy with so many ex-JW women who spoke on the day, because, you know, our culture said us blokes have got to do all the talking in the religion, and that is garbage. So Sherry hosted the day.
I emceed.
And she done an amazing job.
I was in control of the microphones.
Woohoo! I was following on the live stream.
Right.
Oh, good.
I couldn't get there, but I saw you doing all that.
Yeah, and that was really very special. So we thought that'd get us disfellowship, but no. It wasn't until later on that year in November, on the 3rd of November, on the Sunday, I did a live stream with Lloyd Evans daring to critique the Elders' Handbook. Yes, that's the one. That's the one.
Yes.
So apparently that's a step too far.
Well, you are a woman.
I know. So
a woman should never touch that book.
No, look at it.
Do you have that front page there, Shane, that you could make reference to that gives direction, or was it in a letter that was attached?
No, it was in a letter.
Do you notice he has that bound? So did he bind that himself, or did he have a woman bind it?
So for those who aren't aware, the Elders Manual, a letter was issued saying that elders were to have their copy of this directive on how to take care of the congregations and how to mete out punishment and shepherding
Enforce
and guidance.
the rules, yeah.
But it said that your wife is never to touch that book. If a woman is to assist with perhaps binding the book or putting cover onto it, the elder husband must watch while she does that to make sure that she doesn't read anything that she shouldn't. So to have Sherry do a live stream, or to have Sherry do a presentation where they go through page by page analysing the ridiculous, high control, terrible aspects of that book,
was apparently the nail in the coffin. We didn't find out, though, until 5 weeks later. It was when the fires were particularly bad, not far from us, actually, just back of Sydney. We had gone to escape the smoke because it was just choking.
Yep.
We went down to the south coast to see my aunt, and while we were down there, my sister, actually it wasn't even my sister, it was my brother-in-law, calls Auntie Bev to see how Sasha and Sherry are. Are we okay with the fires?
It's funny, she
That
couldn't
makes
call
sense.
us.
I know. It's just like, okay. All right. Next thing, Auntie Bev comes over and she says, your sister's on the phone. Would you like to talk to her? And I hadn't spoken to Donna and had to have been 2 or so years.
Yep.
She'd stopped talking to me for obvious reasons.
Because you're evil?
Well, clearly.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So we had this, it was a really weird conversation. It's almost like we were trying to catch up on 2 years because we now had this excuse to be talking to each other. And so it was this dump of information trying to catch up on one another. But in the midst of that conversation, she said, well, I wanted to know how you were with the fires and, especially given the news of the last few weeks. And I'm like, what news of the last few weeks? And she says, oh, don't you know? I'm like, don't I know what? I have no idea what you're referring to. And she says, okay, this is awkward. We got a phone call from one of the elders in your congregation saying that it was going to be announced that you and Sasha are no longer Jehovah's Witnesses. And I went, oh. I'm really glad you called then because we have no idea about that. We don't know. And she said, they didn't tell you. I said, Donna, I have not spoken to any of the elders from Camden congregation for about 3 years. No one has called me. No one has spoken to me. I have no idea what's going on. Yeah. And she said, well, apparently you've been busy on YouTube.
Oh.
I went, oh. Is that right? So then I went, so can you just let me know when did you get this phone call? And she said, I think it was in early November. It was the first Tuesday in November.
Yeah.
I went, so Tuesday the 5th of November. What happened 2 days before that? Oh, live stream of the Elders book. Okay.
We're assuming that
must have been the crunch point. Apparently we were disfellowshipped at that point, but we've never received any official notification about that whatsoever. We've just heard it third hand, and we assume that there was a bit of a telephone call campaign on the 5th of November because my sister's in Launceston in Tasmania. So she gets a call to tell her we are assuming that Sasha's father, who serves as an elder in Perth, also received the same phone call. But yeah, there you go. So we don't know if they've assumed disassociation or if they've just announced disfellowshipping, whatever. But
and we're not worried, Shane, to be honest. I mean, obviously,
you look terribly worried with that face.
I mean, we had no intention of going back, of course, and we've made it very clear through our actions. And I know a lot of people might have different views about whether you take the proactive step of disassociating or writing a letter and saying, I hereby stop. And we back everybody's personal decision.
Of course.
At the time, our personal decision was just, hey, our actions are speaking for us. We don't attend anymore. We don't wish to be labelled as such, and we've spoken out in constructive ways as necessary online. maybe given an opportunity, we might have done it differently. We might have sent a letter to the congregation or to our friends or something in the congregation and expressed our reasoning. But at the time, we're happy, we're happy that we did it the way we did. Our actions spoke for it.
Yeah.
Yep, sure did. But I can tell your life has crumbled into oblivion, and you're so sad.
Yeah, we're suffering big time.
I noticed. So how's that work for you? You've done things which is totally against what you were brought up to believe and do, and all those sorts of things. How have you coped? What sort of things have you done that have nothing to do with the J-dubs?
Yeah, well, isn't it amazing? The moment you shake off the shackles of that fear, obligation, and guilt, or that oppressiveness of the religion, that high control aspect, the religion would have us say that we go out there and we're going to suddenly our life's going to fall apart. We're going to crumble into destitution, and we're not going to, we're going to take up all sorts of vices, and we're going to become terrible people. Well, none of that's happened. Our relationship has gotten so much stronger because rather than me having to adopt the religious mindset of being the head of the house and Sherry being my supportive wife, we're now partners, we're equals. And I can see Sherry's far more qualified, far more experienced, and far more knowledgeable on so many things than I am. So we're not approaching this as superior and inferior. We're approaching this now as partners in a team. So for us, I think that's one of the biggest things.
Absolutely.
It strengthened our relationship, and, it strengthened our ability to work together as a team, and communication. Yeah. Once the shackles of the religious doctrine and dogma's gone, we can now talk about all topics, and we've expanded our worldview. We've come to learn about everything from politics to social cultures to history to things that we normally just didn't even show an interest in. We're able to have really constructive conversations and fun conversations and deep conversations and you name it. And that, I think, is probably one of the most liberating things for us.
Yeah.
But
There's been a few other things.
Oh, Karen, that's right, Sherry. Go for it.
I was just going to say there's a few other practical things that had to be done. I found the process quite traumatic coming out, so I did seek therapy. I saw a psychologist for a period of time. In fact, I've only just stopped seeing a psychologist now. That was essential, absolutely essential for me to just understand and make sense of my life. Where we started and what I thought my life was going to be, and the dynamic of having lost all of your family and lost all of your contacts and social network, but also having lost things that you had sincerely believed and had hoped for. So, thinking that you were going to live forever on a paradise earth, not prepare for your old age and really not think about your superannuation, and now you've got to think of all of those things. And so there's been some practical things that we've had to do. I know we saw a financial planner to try and work out, okay, we got to get serious about this now.
But that's been so refreshing too, because when you know that life is finite, and I know that might sound negative, but let's face the reality, the one thing that every human has in common is eventually we all get old and die, so it happens. But now knowing that means that every single day is valuable, and we make sure, individually or collectively as a couple, every day, even if we're doing the most mundane of running errands or working, there's always something to be happy about and to appreciate in that day, whether it's just the fact that we had food today, or we had a blue sky, or, we had a warm bed to sleep in. Every single day we appreciate it. And I think, knowing that we don't have eternity means that we appreciate each and every day.
Yeah.
And that's been so empowering.
Yeah. Yeah, that's meant a
Just
lot.
going back to your politics thing for a moment, Sasha. I hear you've been made redundant now, though.
Well, there was a certain period of time where an individual politician inspired reactions out of me, and look, I don't want to offend anybody wherever people stand on political spectrum is completely up to each individual. But yes, I did enjoy having fun at the expense of a certain political character, and that was great. And, yeah, anyway.
That's something you wouldn't have done when you were a J-Dub.
No. Isn't that an interesting thing, that we didn't even know about politics? We never got involved in even the most mundane of community activities or community councils or whatever it might be in your local environment or environmental issues. We wouldn't be conscious of that, because why do we need to think about what's happening to the world? Because God's going to fix it all.
That's right.
So so that's been actually really great. As confronting and sad as a lot of things are that we've come to learn about the world, we also realize the power is in our hands to assist in doing something about it. And that instead of just outsourcing our responsibility or our humanity to a divine being, we actually can do something. So every day I can be more environmentally conscious every day, and I can do something to assist my community, and I can look at what's happening in the political world or any of those things, or how we're progressing as humans in the way we treat one another. That's really been refreshing. And it's also been probably the one negative. I look back and I just see how judgmental and critical we used to be with the religious bubble influencing us. And I'm making sure that I do everything I possibly can to make up for that. There was a famous quote, I think Maya Angelou said, "When you know better, you do better."
Mm-hmm.
And so now that we know better, I'm trying to do better on a daily basis with everything.
Yeah.
So with that in mind then, since leaving the J-Doves, what's one of the favourite things that both of you have enjoyed being out?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I've got to give credit to Sherry. I've looked at how she has absolutely
You're just trying to butter her up now after the original comment.
I have to, right? Sherry went on and got so many great qualifications through online university courses and so forth, and she's built a career that I'm so proud of in the medical industry. So there's something we would never have been able to do when we were in the JW world. Sherry wouldn't have been able to go to university. She wouldn't have been able to get these diplomas on the wall. She wouldn't have been able to start a business that is employing people, assisting doctors and medical specialists to do what they do, which is then helping the community. So I'm really proud of her for doing that. She would never have been given approval to do that in the religious world.
And what about you, Sasha? Maybe Sherry could tell us something that she thinks you like having fun with or doing.
Well, I think one of the things we did, 2017, I think I was newly awake. It really was like, I'm seeing the world for the first time, and like looking at everything. Oh, wow. And so we went to a lot of music concerts, and we went to.
We love live music.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, we love seeing live music and theatre. Or
I made him go to a few operas.
Yeah, we did an opera one weekend. Opera one night and an electronic music festival the next night, and then we're just having fun.
We even did we did music festivals, which was just hilarious, because here we are, we were like 43, bopping it with all the teenagers. And, we had a blast. We've obviously COVID's put a bit of a dampener on that recently, but we like to go out and go to comedies and
everything. Yeah, so that's been awesome, and
it's been really good.
Yourself and others in the group have always spoken about the value of that. Get out and just live life and enjoy it. And
absolutely.
I know the religious bubble again would say, well, of course that's what you're going to do now that you've left God. You're going to just you're going to go out there and live a hedonistic lifestyle. Not like that. It's not like we're going out and getting off our face. And look, if someone chooses to do that, good luck to them. That's fine. We're not doing that. We're just enjoying life, and we're doing that together. We're doing that with responsibility, but we're doing that knowing that every moment is precious.
Yeah,
it is, definitely. So when you look into the future, once COVID comes, have you just given me an idea for our meetup when you come to New Zealand for it, that we've got to have a jazz festival?
Oh,
jazz! Yeah, we could do that.
Jazz be cool.
Or something like that.
Do they have any good musicians in New Zealand though?
Just moving on further, before we start digging holes. Because to be honest, I can't remember them. Apparently we do have, but I can't remember them. Anyway, yeah, what would you like to do in the future, you guys?
Yeah, look, one thing that we absolutely do love doing too is, look, some people, they can leave their religious bubble and just say, right, that's it, enough, and just move on and never think about it again. And that's totally fine, and we support people doing that. What we wanted to do, though, along the way was to help people who were also going through that transition stage. So we've been doing a whole lot to try and just be there for people. We don't claim to be qualified therapists or anything like that, but we can just offer peer support. And if people email through and they need support or guidance to get resources or a support network, just validation to understand what they've gone through, we love doing that. We love being there to help people. And so what we've done recently over the last 12, 15 months, we've become part of recoveringfromreligion.org, which is an amazing organization. If people, if you haven't had a chance, and I hope you don't mind me giving them a plug.
No, you go for it.
Yeah, recoveringfromreligion.org is brilliant because it's founded by a qualified therapist, Dr. Darryl Ray, who's put into place a really great board that works well with excellent communication. They have 60 support groups that take place around the world every single week or every month. And my role of late is to assist with starting up all of those meetings from all parts of the world. We've got people in the States, in Europe, in Australia, you name it.
South Africa's got one
South
now
Africa, parts of Asia. And these support groups are just designed for people from any religious background to be able to come to a safe place, talk about their experiences. And the biggest thing they really focus on is, again, becoming better, not bitter, thriving after your religion. Acknowledge the hurt, acknowledge the experiences. But in conjunction with that, Recovering from Religion has another group they set up that Sherry knows a little bit more about.
The Secular Therapy Project. So the Recovering from Religion offers the peer support. But as mentioned earlier, sometimes you need more than peer support. You need professional help. Yeah. So the Secular Therapy Project, which you can find at seculartherapy.org, is a register of vetted mental health professionals who understand religious trauma syndrome. They're not going to tell you to go and pray about it, which unfortunately can be an issue.
Really?
If you have a therapist who is a believer, it can influence their treatment. So the Secular Therapy Project works very hard to make sure that only therapists that use evidence-based treatments like cognitive behavior therapy or acceptance and commitment therapies, they're scientifically based, evidence-based. They're safe for you to go to seek help. So part of the work that Sasha and I are now doing is we have formed a leadership group here in Australia to help grow Recovering from Religion here and the Secular Therapy Project as well. So we're about to start approaching psychologists and mental health organisations to make them aware of these organisations that can help people coming out of all types of high control groups. It's, yes, our niche is Jehovah's Witnesses, but there is trauma in so many other groups. We just had our support group yesterday over Zoom, and we had people from so many different faith backgrounds. We had a former Buddhist. We had a former person who had devoted 30 years of her life to veganism, and the way she spoke about this particular group, it was the same methodology. It was the same high control. You know, she's now shunned for no longer following a vegan lifestyle from this group. So really, really interesting that it can be any type of group, but the harm and the trauma is the same. So Sasha and I are really passionate about that now. And we're trying to make some change happen in Australia. We're working along with the university here as well. Nice. We've got some big plans ahead of us on what we would like to accomplish here.
There's also so Recovering from Religion, of course, has people from all different faith backgrounds attend. And what's been really empowering there too is it helps get us out of our little insular ex-JW bubble, because it's not healthy to just mix with ex-JWs. You know, our group here that you formed has a lot of ex-JWs, but if all we're ever doing is talking to ourselves, that's not healthy. But if we're helping ourselves jump out, as you've been really amazing in helping people do that, look outside of that bubble.
It does help.
And Recovering from Religion assists people to do that and to go, hey, I've got a lot in common with an ex-Mormon, or a lot in common with an ex-Jewish person, or anything like that. And we can help each other. We were just different flavors of soft drink, basically. You were this, we were that. But hey, at the end of the day, the control mechanisms were the same, and the oppression of our life was the same. So how do we help each other come out of that and expand our worldview? And that's been really, really beneficial. And so we've been working along to sort of promote RFR. We've also been working with a few credible journalists here in Australia with the ABC. So we try to avoid, you know, tabloid journalists, but just reputable journalists who are looking at ways to get this sort of assistance into the public consciousness more.
To raise awareness.
So, you know, like sometimes at the end of a news report that touches on issues of mental health, they might say, if this report has brought up any feelings that you needed help, phone Beyond Blue or Lifeline or whatever the mental health government-backed entities are. What we would also like to do when there are reports about religious trauma or that bring up religious trauma syndrome in people, Catholic Church reports and so forth, we want to say, if this has brought up anything that you need assistance with, please feel free.
Recovering from Religion.
Recovering from Religion. And so if we start that in Australia and New Zealand, it just gives extra resources for people to sort of springboard off and to get back to reclaiming their lives. You know?
Absolutely.
Notice he just said New Zealand, because we'd really like to get Recovering from Religion going in New Zealand as well.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, I was invited onto the Recovering from Religion board, and I've been given the non-audacious title.
Non-audacious?
Inaudacious?
It is rather audacious, I think.
They're pretty special?
No, it's enormous. The board's basically said, well, since you're bringing Recovering from Religion to Australia, and this is the first time it's going out of the US, you can be in charge of all international expansion.
There you go.
Sure. There you go. So I'm thinking, well, since we're going to open it in Australia, we may as well just, you know, since New Zealand's just another postcode of Australia, we may as well.
Yeah, well, New Zealand's the second and third island of Australia.
That's
so,
right.
You know, like,
yes.
It's all good.
Well, no, fourth if you include Tasmania.
Oh, sure.
We can't forget Tasmania.
No.
So have you seen the under geological findings with regards to the area of New Zealand?
No.
No, might pay to do some research, because I was blown away. How
so
big?
We should just be quiet, hey?
Yeah. We're actually not that far from Australia, believe it or not.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
I was blown away that they found out, it was only 18 months ago, that it sounds like New Zealand's quite a hilly place. And we only see what we see on the map. But we could actually come over to Australia. The government could go, right, give us that back. It's not yours. It's... And I'm just going, what? So do a search on that. You'll be surprised how big New Zealand really is. But anyway,
look, if you take us over, we'd be quite happy. Jacinda's been doing a great job with managing things, so we'd be quite happy for her to manage things for us as well.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I wouldn't mind.
But how would you go about missing your, what do we call him? ScoMo.
We call him many things.
Well, we would not miss him at all.
Anyway, as a way of concluding, if somebody was listening to this and they had a lot of questions, what would you encourage them to do in regards to helping them on their journey away from the controlling group that Jehovah's Witnesses are?
Reach out to others. You need support through this. So don't try to do it on your own.
Look for community. Yeah,
look for community. And the first time you speak to an ex-Jehovah's Witness, it can be quite daunting. But we are not what Watchtower describes. We are not bitter. We are not twisted. We are not trying to just take followers after ourselves. We're all just trying to help one another through this whole experience. So if you're out there and you have questions and you're feeling alone, please be assured you are not alone. And probably one of the best things that you can do for yourself is to reach out to others and start to get yourself a bit of a community around you.
Yeah.
I will strongly recommend Recovering from Religion, because it's just been so beneficial for us, and we've seen it help so many others. There's so many resources out there to help you.
And you'll find your community. You know, the most important thing is to feel comfortable. And, you know, groups like yours, Shane, is being brilliant for people. What do we got? 1.6 thousand in the group now or something, is it?
It's over 1,800. It's over
1,800? So there's 1,800 people who just get it. You know, they get it. They understand what we've been through. So feel free to just share your thoughts. I think sometimes, you know, the religious background we came from told us to sort of just grin and bear it and just suppress it. Well, it's okay to talk to people, and particularly in the group, drop a message and say, I'm having a bad day, or I need some help navigating my way through this. And we see that people are not just willing, they are ready to help. And, you know, eventually it gets better. Things do get better. And we get to a point where the religious baggage no longer weighs us down in the way that it used to. It'll always be there, but it won't weigh us down in that way that it used to.
Yeah.
Well, we really
and come
want
along
to
to our support group.
Yeah, because it's all online, isn't it?
Yes, all on Zoom. And I think even when after COVID, I think there's a case to continue at least one of the meetings per month on Zoom, because we do get people coming from all over the world now. So I think we'll probably will continue with that. But yeah.
And just be part of the community. You know, often we don't know that we don't know how to help people unless they put their hand up and they say, we need help. So drop a post in the Facebook group that you've got, you know, drop a comment, and people will be there to support one another. So that's probably the biggest thing. We just say that, and there's, you know, there's no such thing as a silly question or anything. Just we're all there to support each other. We're all there to help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we really want to say thank you for being on our live stream today. It's nice to see that you've turned the books on the Watchtower, because you're not unhappy, you're not depressed, you're totally the opposite. Yeah. But like you said, there's things we've got to do.
Yeah.
And you've shown some of the things that you've done, and it's a great example for anybody who is in the same position.
Thank you for saying that, Shane. But we also want to thank those that were there for us, because the only way that we've got to a position where we can genuinely say we're living our best life ever is because there were people there along the way for us, and often people we didn't even know personally, just anonymous people on Facebook forums or on online forums that were there to hear us. And, you know, we may never get to thank them personally, but everyone does their little bit to help someone else. And I just am so appreciative to those that were there to help us, that my natural thing is I want to help others.
Yep, absolutely. It's like I say, it's been great having you on. We certainly appreciated it, and we look forward to catching up with you. Hopefully here in New Zealand. I know somebody's just got her second jab, so if our bubble stays open, we'll be able to have a meetup, which I'll be in touch with you about.
That
sounds great. And thanks for all that you do, mate, to help people.
Well, it's a team
amazing
effort.
Job.
Everybody's got a part to play in it, and whether it's a little bit or a large bit, it all helps. So
absolutely.
So for those who are on the live stream, for those who have been watching there and putting the comments, which has been nice to see the comments coming backwards and forwards, for those who will watch it afterwards, we certainly appreciate you being here, being part of the group and the Life After. We know there's plenty of other groups out there, but we're grateful that you're in our group. We want to say thank you. We encourage you to keep safe, look after yourself for this part of the world, keep warm. For the other part, try and keep cool. And until our next live stream, we look forward to seeing you again. And thanks once again for being here. Thanks, Sasha and Sherry, for being here with us. And we look forward to seeing you again. Thanks for that, and catch you next time. Bye.
See ya. Bye.